I hid the fact that I was the son of the richest man in the world and dated the CEO worth hundreds of billions for 5 years. Just as I was about to reveal my true identity to her, I overheard her group of girlfriends right in front of me, speaking in French. Zunya, you're about to marry young Master Z. What about that little boyfriend you're seeing now? Have you broken up yet? Zunya gently swirled the wine in her glass. No breakup, I really like him. But his family is too poor to be presentable. Marriage is just to fulfill my family's expectations. He's my true love. Later, I'll just keep it from him and keep him hidden away on the side. Their shameless conversation continued without restraint. After all, they were certain I came from poverty and couldn't understand French. I didn't tell them that I could actually understand every word they said. Turns out, while she was whispering sweet nothings into my ear, she had already agreed to her family's arranged marriage. Turns out, while she was coaxing me to call her wife, she was busy preparing to marry a husband who matched her in wealth and status. Not a single one of them noticed the gloom on my face. I excused myself, saying I needed the restroom. The moment I stepped outside, I called home. Mom, Dad, I've made up my mind. I'm willing to come back and inherit the family fortune. Hearing me finally relent, my parents couldn't hide their joy over the phone, thinking about the girlfriend I had kept hidden along with my identity. They couldn't help but ask, will your girlfriend be coming back with you? You haven't told her your real identity yet, right? No, I'll break up with her. Mentioning Zunya, my voice unconsciously dropped lower. 1 week later, I would wrap up everything here. After chatting a bit more, I hung up the call, put away my phone, and returned to the private room. The room was crowded and noisy. The conversation paused for a brief moment as I pushed open the door. But I acted as if I noticed nothing, walking straight over to Zunya and sitting down beside her. She spared some attention from her conversation and glanced at me sitting quietly beside her. Yanzi, what call took you so long? Before I could answer, another voice cut in. There wasn't a single French person present, yet someone spoke a line in French. Zunya, when are you and Ziding getting married? Hearing those words, my hand gripping the glass tightened slightly. The tips of my fingers turned pale, yet Zunya still looked utterly nonchalant. She glanced at me casually, then answered in French. The date set by the family, half a month from now. Upon hearing that, everyone present turned their gaze toward me in unison. One of the girls raised an eyebrow. Her tone carried a hint of curiosity. If you're marrying Ziding, then what about Ziyan? Break up? No break up. Zunya shook her head. The wine in her glass swirled gently. She took a light sip. Only then did she continue speaking. Marriage is just to satisfy my family. The one I truly love is Yanzi. As soon as those words left her lips, the whole room burst into laughter. Playful teasing and banter echoed around. Zunya, since when did you get into pure love stories? Such a huge gap in status. And you actually took him seriously? She turned her head to look at me. The affection and tenderness in her eyes were almost overwhelming. Without saying a word, she perfectly answered the question with that look alone. Someone seeing her love-struck expression exclaimed in wonder. Looks like she really fell for him. But by the way, can he really not understand French? The person only asked casually. But the others, hearing this, all burst into laughter. Ziyan's family is poor. Where would he get the money to learn foreign languages? Relax, there's no way he understands. Their mocking laughter filled the room. No one noticed that my breathing had become slightly uneven, or that the hand gripping my wine glass had already turned pale at the knuckles. I didn't tell them. I understood every word of their French. After all, I was never some penniless poor boy, but the only heir to the world's richest family. 5 years of dating. Zunya had been very good to me, but she had never once introduced me to her parents. At first, I thought she was simply concerned about our difference in status. After all, the Liu family was a prestigious household in Haikang. So, I had made up my mind early on. I had planned to tell her the truth about my identity. That I was the son of the richest man alive. I simply didn't want to live forever under my parents' wings. That's why I chose to conceal my background and experience life on my own. But fate had its way. 3 days ago, I stumbled upon something in her study. A red wedding invitation. The groom was young Master Ziding, and the bride was none other than Zizunner. At that moment, I realized there was no longer a need to say anything. From now on, she would go and marry, and I would return to inherit the family empire. We would both have bright futures. After rounds of drinking, the group was in high spirits. As night fell, they finally decided to call it a night. I followed behind everyone as we left the private room. Had barely taken a few steps when a strange voice called out from behind, "Young Master Z." My body froze. I turned around. I realized the one calling out to me was a business partner who had long begged my father for a collaboration. He had chased after us for years. I couldn't help but sigh internally. I didn't want to expose my identity. I was still thinking about how to brush him off, when one of the girls following behind Zizunner gave me a head-to-toe look and suddenly burst into laughter. "Young Master? Ziyan? Just look at what he's wearing. Do his clothes even add up to 300 yuan? How could he possibly be a young master? What a hilarious joke." As soon as those words came out, the room erupted into laughter. They weren't speaking in French anymore. I heard every word of their ridicule, yet my face showed no reaction. Instead, it was Zizunner who grew angry. She shot the girl a cold, warning glare. That girl, sensing the chill, awkwardly pulled back a little, no longer mocking as wantonly. The others, catching her warning gaze too, gradually fell silent. The noise finally died down, and that person didn't dare follow us. I trailed behind Zizunner. The two of us walked home without exchanging a word. Once home, she took off her coat and hung it on the rack, then suddenly spoke. "From now on, I won't take you to gatherings like that anymore." My voice and expression remained calm, even though it felt like I was being quietly pushed out of her circle. There was no change in my demeanor. I only asked a single question. "Do you think I embarrass you?" She chuckled softly, as if wanting to hug me, but I stepped aside to avoid it, leaving her no choice but to explain helplessly. "What are you thinking? I just don't want you to be wrong. But there's a gap between our statuses, so situations like today will keep happening. Hasn't your family pressured you into an arranged marriage before?" I stared at her, trying to catch even a flicker of guilt in her expression. But even after hearing the words arranged marriage, Zizunner only froze for a split second, before returning to her usual calm demeanor. "Yanzi, as long as you know that the one I love is you, that's enough. As for everything else, I'll find a way to handle it." If I hadn't been watching carefully, I truly wouldn't have noticed anything wrong. After finishing her words, Zizunner went to the bathroom to wash up. Watching her retreating figure, I remained silent, but in my heart I couldn't help but wonder, was your so-called solution to marry the man your family chose, while keeping another hidden on the side? A lover in secret? Not far away, from the direction of the nightstand, a message notification chimed. It was Zizunner's phone. She had never hidden her phone password from me, so I easily unlocked her phone. I tapped into the messages and took a quick look. It was a message from Ziding. "Zunner, tomorrow we're meeting both families. If you don't stay over at my place tonight, won't the elders find out that our marriage is fake? I know you love your boyfriend, but at least for these few days, can you give me some dignity?" Although the words were humble, I could clearly see his real intention. He was using the excuse of pleasing the parents to beg her to move in with him. And later on, he would only continue to use that reason, step by step, pushing further and further. But that had nothing to do with me anymore. I had already decided to leave. Thinking so, I marked the message as unread and quietly put the phone back where it was. Not long after, Zizunner came out from the bathroom, having finished washing up. She casually picked up her phone and glanced at it. The next second, she looked at me with an apologetic smile. Yanzi, something urgent came up at work. I need to head over for a bit. I won't be coming tonight. Take care and get some rest, okay? She left in a hurry. Too rushed to notice my reaction, nor did she realize that the man who used to always walk her to the door, grumbling for her to stay a little longer and begging for a little more of her time, now didn't even try to hold her back. I simply watched her silhouette disappear farther and farther away. Ding dong! A notification sounded. Zizunner had only just left, and my phone also received a message. All it takes is a word from me, and Zunner would still come running back. Tomorrow we'll meet both families, once we're married for real. What will you even be then? A secret lover no one dares to acknowledge? Ziding's words were cruel, but what hurt me more was that the weapon used to wound me was handed over personally by the woman I once thought I could entrust my whole life to. Maybe Zizunner didn't know that even if I hadn't found that wedding invitation, her marriage plans wouldn't have stayed hidden from me for long. Because the very next day after she got the invitation, Ziding had already added me as a friend. And over the past days, he kept sending me provocative pictures, photos of Zizunner accompanying him to try on wedding outfits, photos of them picking out engagement rings together, photos of them touring wedding venues, one after another, crushing every last bit of love I had for Zizunner. That night, Zizunner didn't come home. I didn't care in the slightest. The next morning after waking up, I washed up quickly, then went straight to the company to submit my resignation. I completed all the resignation procedures that very day. During lunch break, I grabbed a meal downstairs with some coworkers. We sat together casually, sharing food and chatter. When I mentioned that I had finished the resignation process, a colleague who was closer to me couldn't help teasing. Recently, I keep seeing videos saying that coworkers who resign suddenly ... are actually leaving to inherit family fortunes. Yanzi, you quit so cleanly. Don't tell me you're going back to inherit a family business too? They were only joking casually, but I nodded lightly. I'm going to inherit my family's business. Everyone froze for a second, then burst out laughing. They all took it as a joke. No one thought twice about it. I smiled along with them without offering any explanation. After the meal, I packed all my belongings into a suitcase and carried it home. When I arrived, Zizunner happened to be home too. Seeing me walk in with a suitcase, she looked a little puzzled. You resigned? I nodded and headed toward the bedroom with the suitcase, but she furrowed her brows tightly and called out to me. I thought you really liked that job? Why did you quit so suddenly? I paused in my steps and turned to her with a smile. Because I have something even more important I want to do now. Hearing that, she didn't press further, only said, if work gets too tiring, just come back home. Seeing you work so hard every day really makes my heart ache. Yanzi, you have to know I can take care of you. I shook my head and said word by word, I'm not anyone's accessory. She hurried to explain. How could you be an accessory? I didn't want to listen anymore. I interrupted her. Why are you home so early today? You didn't go to the company? Work's been too busy lately. I haven't had time to spend with you. So today, I thought I'd make time just for you. Her brows smoothed out, and she became once again the doting girlfriend I used to know. What do you want to do? Go out for Western food, watch a movie. Whatever you want to do today. I'll accompany you. If it were the old me hearing these words, I probably would have been deeply touched. After all, I knew it too. She was the heir to the Liu Corporation, and there was a mountain of work on her shoulders every day. For her to make time for me amid all that, at least it proved that I held a significant place in her heart. But now, as I looked at her, but deep down, I couldn't help but wonder, was it really that work kept her busy? Or was it the wedding preparations that consumed her time? How exactly did she manage it? Preparing for a wedding with another man on one side, while coaxing me on the other, telling me that I was the only one she loved. In the end, though, I still didn't expose her lies. After all, there were only a few days left. Soon enough, I would vanish completely from her life, without a trace. I shook my head and declined her suggestion. After thinking for a moment, I said, "Help me do a deep cleaning. There are a lot of old things in the villa. There's no point keeping them around anymore." Zunner agreed readily, and accompanied me in cleaning for a long time. But as we sorted through everything, I realized that almost everything I pulled out were the couple's items we had bought together. From mugs to accessories, from clothes to slippers. I threw them all into the trash without hesitation. The more couple's items I discarded, the stiffer the smile on her face became, until finally, when the last piece was tossed into the bin, the panic in her heart could no longer be hidden. Yanzi, did you find out something? What could I possibly know? Do you have something you're hiding from me? I raised an eyebrow and stared at Zunner, dodging her question with one of my own. She quickly averted her gaze, not daring to meet my eyes. After a moment of silence, she still didn't answer directly. Instead, she grabbed my hand tightly and said, Yanzi, no matter what happens, just remember, the one I love is you. I tugged the corner of my mouth into a half smile and said nothing more. After the deep cleaning, Zunner insisted on taking me out for a date. Afraid of arousing suspicion, I didn't refuse. She took me out for a meal, then to watch a movie. Finally, the car stopped at an auction house. Just as we were about to enter, a man in a finely tailored suit walked toward us. A flash of unease crossed her face, which I caught instantly. "What's wrong? Ran into someone you know?" As my voice fell, the man came to a stop in front of us. With a smile, he greeted us warmly, and she promptly introduced him. "He's the son of a family close to mine." She paused briefly, then introduced me. "He's my boyfriend." Hearing the stark difference between the way she introduced us, the smile on Ziding's face stiffened visibly. But after a moment, he forced a polite smile and extended his hand toward me. "I've long heard that Zunner's boyfriend is very handsome, and now that I see you today, you truly live up to the reputation." As he spoke, the same group of girls who had mocked me in French the day before came walking over. Out of my sight, they winked slyly at Zunner. Only then did I realize this so-called coincidence wasn't by chance at all. They had deliberately brought Ziding here. Anger surged in my chest. But in such a situation, if I suddenly exploded, it would only make things harder to explain. Left with no choice, I forced myself to swallow the rage down. At the auction, Ziding's seat was right beside Zunner's. Unlike his provocative texts, in real life he acted graciously, knowledgeable and composed. Upon finding out that Zunner was interested in porcelain, he immediately steered the conversation toward that topic, engaging her enthusiastically. At first, Zunner seemed distant, but gradually she leaned closer toward him, till I coughed lightly. Only then did Zunner realize she had completely left me aside. She quickly softened her tone and said, "Are you bored, Yanzi? I know you're not really into this kind of thing. If you see anything you like, just raise your paddle and bid for it." I hadn't said a word yet, but behind me, her friends' whispering drifted over. Even though they tried to lower their voices, Since we were only separated by one row of seats, I heard every word clearly. Zunya really knows how to save Ziyan's dignity. But even if he's interested, so what? He doesn't know a thing about any of this. He probably doesn't even know how to raise the bidding paddle. Ha ha ha! Exactly! This must be his first time at a high society auction. As they spoke, they even cast scornful glances in my direction. They called it whispering, but it was clearly meant for me to hear. Still, I didn't respond. Because soon enough, the next time we met, they would have to bow their heads before me and respectfully call me young Master Z. At that moment, the transaction for the previous item concluded, and the next auction piece was brought out. It was a jade sculpture, entitled Longevity of Pine and Crane. The jade quality was exquisite, but what caught everyone's attention even more was the host's introduction, saying that it was the work of the legendary master artisan, Junjiang. Upon hearing that name, Ziding immediately grew excited. He lifted his bidding paddle. Zunner! This piece has immense collection value, and it's just in time for Grandma Liu's birthday in 2 days. This would make the perfect birthday gift. When I heard the Junsheng Master, I instinctively looked up at the item on stage. With just a glance, I withdrew my gaze. My voice was calm and emotionless, but it was like a bucket of cold water splashed over Ziding's head. This one's a fake. Ziding stared at me in disbelief. He almost blurted out, "What would a country bumpkin like?" But glancing at Zunner beside him, he forcefully swallowed his anger and smiled instead. "Mr. Chen, how can you tell?" "Because the real one," double quotes, was gifted by the son of the richest man in the world to his grandmother. There's only one in the world, and the real one is at my house. So the one on stage must be a fake. I had kindly offered a warning, but the moment the words left my mouth, Ziding suddenly burst out laughing. And even the group of Zunner's friends behind us joined in, laughing openly. The Yan! If you don't know anything, just don't pretend you do. It's embarrassing. Yeah. Gifted by the richest man's son. Huh? What, did you crawl under the bed and see it happen yourself? Or maybe you think just because your last name is Chen you can claim some relation to the richest family? Their mocking laughter grew louder and louder, until finally Zunner's cold glare forced them to stop their jeering. She looked at me and took my hand. Yanzi, I know you've been reading a lot about art appraisal lately, but you can't truly learn appraisal skills from just books. Ding has attended auctions since he was a child, and he has studied jade sculptures in depth. Of course he knows more than you. She hadn't said anything too harsh, but between the lines, it was clear she thought I was speaking nonsense. I let out a soft laugh and said nothing more. In the end, Ziding spent a full 100 million to successfully bid on that jade sculpture. As I watched him swipe his card, I smiled. I wondered how old Madame Liu would react when she found out that the supposed priceless gift was a fake bought for 100 million. I didn't bother to stop them, nor did I care. I got up and headed to the restroom. Just as I finished washing my hands, a familiar voice came from behind. The Yan! I thought I made myself clear. Yet here you are, still clinging on. Are you that desperate to be the third wheel? His voice was sharp and grating, a stark contrast to the mature, polished gentleman he pretended to be earlier. I calmly lifted my eyes and turned to face him. Mr. Chen, I suggest you get your facts straight. I'm the one who's been with her for 5 years. If anyone's a third party here, it's certainly not me. As I said this, I stepped forward intending to leave, but he refused to let it go. He sneered and continued to taunt me. Yeah, 5 years together, and she still won't marry you. Have you really ever wondered why? I'm the heir to the Chen family, and she's the heiress of the Liu Corporation. We're perfectly matched. But you? A gambler for a father, a sick mother, a background as broken and miserable as yours. Having nothing. What makes you think you deserve her? I paused in my steps, That so-called background had been fabricated by me. But I hadn't expected that Zunner would share even that lie with Ding. I couldn't help but laugh bitterly at myself. If that were truly my family background, then perhaps the man she called her boyfriend, the one she claimed to love, would merely be the full handing over a second dagger to wound himself. Truly undeserving. A stabbing pain twisted in my chest. I glanced back at Ding, and the lingering frustration in my heart finally dissipated. You two really are a perfect match. I wish you all the best. As the words fell, I once again turned to leave. But barely had I stepped out when my phone started ringing. It was a call from my mother. Yanzi, hurry home. Everyone's waiting for you. We've prepared tons of gifts for you. Your father and I bought you a castle overseas. Your aunt got you a diamond watch ... One that was once worn by the King of England. Even your uncle. He prepared an entire garage full of luxury cars. Listening to my mom's endless chatter about the gifts, each more extravagant than the last, I couldn't help but feel helpless. Mom, I'm going back to inherit the family business ... Not to squander the entire fortune. Just as I finished speaking, a familiar voice sounded behind me. Inherit the family business? I froze and instinctively hung up the phone. Inwardly, I sighed. Why did people always love sneaking up behind others to startle them? I turned around, only to meet Zunner's not-so-pleasant expression. She seemed to be weighing something in her heart. After a brief pause, I offered an explanation. It's nothing, just some old colleagues joking around, asking me what I'd do after resigning. I said I'd go home and inherit a fortune. Zunner frowned slightly. Clearly, she knew I wasn't the type to joke like that. Something inside her stirred uneasily. She was about to say something, but I had already taken several steps forward and turned back to call out to her. Aren't you coming? There are still a few jewelry lots left to be displayed. Hearing that, Zunner, thinking I was interested in buying jewelry, nodded and hurried to catch up with me. When we returned to the auction hall, Zunner went on to bid on several limited edition watches and designer outfits. She bought them all at sky-high prices, then had them carefully packaged and placed them in my hands. I looked at the boxes I was holding and said softly, I don't need these things. Zunner smiled and hugged me. You'll get used to it. Don't worry about wasting money. I'll buy you things for a lifetime. I moved my lips slightly, but in the end, I didn't say the words I was holding back. I don't wear things that cost mere millions. The watches I collect, each one, costs upwards of tens of millions. The auction eventually came to an end. People around the venue began to leave one after another. Zunner and our group also didn't stay much longer. Everyone had driven their own cars. Originally, we should have just gone our separate ways. But just as I got into the car, before we could even start the engine, the passenger side window was knocked on by Ding. The window slowly rolled down, and the man outside showed no trace of the sharp and mean look he had earlier in the restroom. Zunner, my car broke down. Could you give me a ride home? Zunner frowned. She was about to refuse, but he quickly added, Uncle and Auntie said you should take care of me. You haven't forgotten, have you? At that, Zunner's face darkened slightly. After a moment of hesitation, she finally agreed. Seeing her nod directly, the smile on Ding's face widened. And then he went even further, looking at me shamelessly. But I get carsick. I can't sit in the back seat. What should we do? Zunner turned to me. She hadn't even spoken yet, when I had already opened the door and gotten out. I quietly moved to the back seat, smooth and unhesitating. Before Zunner could even react, I had already settled into the back. Whatever she was about to say stuck awkwardly in her throat, leaving her visibly uncomfortable. She looked like she wanted to explain, Wanted to say, it's just a seat, don't be so sensitive. But when she glanced at the rearview mirror, she saw me in the back seat, eyes closed, looking like I intended to sleep. Right at that moment, Ziding climbed into the front seat. When he saw me resting quietly in the back, the corners of his mouth curled up into a smug smile. The Yan, even if she likes you now, so what? The things I want always end up in my hands anyway. Winning her heart is only a matter of time. Thinking this, he suddenly felt a lot better. And when he looked at Zizunner again, his gaze was filled with tenderness. Mr. Chen must be tired. Let him rest for a while. Maybe she sensed something strange about me. Zizunner didn't chat much with Ziding either. She simply nodded and silently started the car. I didn't know when it happened, but I actually fell asleep. When I woke up, the car was already parked inside the Liu family's villa garage. Ziding had long since gotten off. Zizunner gently touched my face. You're awake. I didn't have the heart to wake you since you were sleeping so soundly. My mind was still a bit hazy. I nodded and got out of the car. Without waiting for Zizunner, I walked straight toward the front door. By the time Zizunner got out, I was already at the doorstep. She hurried after me and blocked me at the door. Are you mad? Ziding is really just the son of a family friend. Don't take it too hard. I gave a small nod, but Zizunner thought I was still upset. She reached out and grabbed my hand and coaxed me softly. He's really just a family friend, son. Darling, the one I love is you. You know that. After saying this, she caught the scent of roses on me and realized it had been a while since we had been truly close. She lowered her head, trying to kiss me, but I pushed her away. Seeing the startled look on her face, I simply entered the villa. I'm not feeling well. I'll rest in the room for a bit. After saying this, I locked the door behind me, completely shutting her out. The next morning, at the dining room on the first floor, I was having breakfast with Zizunner when suddenly my phone rang. It was a scheduled alarm I had set a while ago. The reminder note read, meeting the parents' day. Zizunner also caught sight of the words. Previously, I had planned to tell her the truth about my identity, so I mentioned taking her home to meet my parents, and she had agreed at the time. We exchanged a glance. I was just wondering how to cancel the meeting, when the next second, Zizunner's phone rang too. It was a call from Ziding. I didn't know what he said to her, but her expression shifted subtly when she turned back to me. She apologized and canceled our meeting. Yanzi, something urgent came up suddenly. I'll go meet your parents another time, okay? She thought I would be upset, but instead I nodded calmly. That's fine. I have something to do today as well. After Zizunner left, I also headed out. I went to the mall and prepared a gift for each of the friends I was about to meet. When we all met up, everyone opened their packages, and inside, every box was. When they saw the brand new luxury goods inside, they gasped in astonishment. Yanzi, where did you manage to find so many top-grade replicas? They look way too real. They're all real. Watching them hold the gifts like precious treasures, I couldn't help but chuckle. Seeing their skeptical expressions after my explanation, I revealed my true identity to them. In fact, the story I told you about my father gambling and my mother being critically ill, it was all a lie. My real identity is Ziyan, the only son of the world's richest man. This farewell is because I'm going home to inherit the family fortune. Hearing this, everyone first froze in shock, then erupted into disbelief. Finally, the whole place exploded with excitement. They shouted about how a real-life young master had been right beside them all along. Their screams almost lifted the restaurant ceiling. After the cheering died down, someone suddenly remembered Zizunner and quickly asked, "But if you're going back, what about Zizunner?" Does she know your real identity? At the mention of Zunner, the smile on my face faded a little. She's planning to marry someone else. No way! Hearing that, everyone wore looks of utter disbelief. In our eyes, she was the very image of a love-struck heiress. Exactly. 3 years ago, when you said you liked the night-blooming Sirius, she spent a fortune to buy every last one in the world just to make you smile. 2 years ago, when you caught the flu, she canceled billion-dollar deals and flew back from overseas. She personally took care of you. She didn't sleep for nights. 1 year ago, when you had that car accident, the truck that lost control was originally headed straight for you. She deliberately swerved the car to shield you. In the end, you walked away unscathed. While she broke 3 ribs and spent 3 months in the hospital, almost losing her life. And now she's getting married? And the groom isn't you? Hearing my brothers recall those memories, I felt a deep wave of emotion. Back then, Zunner truly loved me enough to put her life on the line. But now, I shook my head and gave a faint smile. She does love me, but her family thinks my status isn't worthy of her. They're forcing her to marry. Before I even had a chance to explain myself, she already had the wedding invitations printed. From what I gather, she probably plans to keep me as her secret lover after marriage. Hearing this, my friends exploded. What? A secret lover? Letting the heir of the richest family become someone's kept man? The Liu family must be insane. Fine, there'll be a day when she regrets it deeply. Exactly. If she ever finds out you slipped away quietly. If her family finds out your real identity, they'll lose their minds. Just at that moment, Zunner and Ding walked in from outside. Hearing the conversation, they both frowned slightly. What real identity? Seeing them come in together, one of my friends, filled with righteous anger, was about to blurt something out, but I stopped him. I turned to look at the two who had just entered, my expression cold. What are you two doing here? Hearing my question, a trace of guilt flashed across Zunner's face. Her gaze darted around uneasily. Our families have a project collaboration, so we agreed to meet up and talk about it. Listening to her response, I couldn't help but chuckle. Of course, I knew all about their collaboration, a marriage alliance, since they were here to discuss business. Zunner and Ding didn't sit with us. Instead, they took a table nearby, just a short distance away. Close enough for me to clearly see their intimate interactions. Like him cutting steak for her, sharing her favorite dishes with him handing her tissues, her gently wiping the corner of his lips. The little gestures flowed naturally between them, and it made my friend seethe with rage. But I stayed calm. After finishing the meal, we all got up and prepared to leave. Zunner suggested giving both Ding and me a ride home. Maybe after the previous incident about the front seat, she had learned her lesson. This time, she drove a stretch Rolls-Royce from the family garage and had a chauffeur drive us instead. Naturally, there was no more need to fight over seats. The car drove smoothly towards Ding's house. The roads were clear. None of us expected disaster to strike. A runaway truck suddenly barreled toward us. The driver swerved instinctively. But then, a deafening crash echoed. The two vehicles collided, unavoidable, as the windows shattered. I was thrown sideways by the impact. And right in that moment, I saw Zunner shielding Ding, protecting him so that he wasn't harmed at all, even comforting him to calm him down. My consciousness grew hazy, and suddenly, memories of the past rushed back. The accident my friends had just mentioned. Back then, we were in our 4th year together. My love for her was at its most intense. It had also been at an intersection like this. A truck had sped toward us uncontrollably, and the side facing the collision had been hers. In that terrifying moment, she realized there was no way to dodge the truck. So she forcefully turned the car. The car's front was crushed inward. She had been trapped tightly in the driver's seat. It had taken firefighters and doctors working together for a long time before they finally managed to pull her out of the wreckage. She had almost lost her life that day. And yet, when she woke up after surviving the danger, The very first thing she asked about was whether I was safe. But now, in a similar accident, the person she instinctively shielded was no longer me. The tail end of the stretch Rolls-Royce was smashed beyond recognition. After everyone got out of the car, Zunner, who had been busy calming Ding, finally noticed me, standing silently, pressing a bleeding gash on my forehead. Fortunately, my injuries were not serious. After a quick checkup and bandaging at the hospital, there were no major problems. But since the injury was on my head, the doctor still recommended I stay for observation for a couple of days. Seeing the bandages wrapped around my head, Zunner guilt. Yanzi, I'm sorry. I was only thinking. That in a few days, Ding and I have an event to attend together for the collaboration. His face couldn't get hurt. That's why I shielded him. You can hit me, scold me, whatever you want. Just please don't ignore me, okay? And her explanation sounded somewhat reasonable. Her attitude in admitting fault was truly sincere. If only I hadn't remembered that the wedding we had planned was now less than half a month away. I lowered my eyes without saying a word, neither forgiving her nor refusing to forgive her. My expression remained calm and indifferent throughout. Zunner's apologies didn't stop. She kept saying sorry over and over. Suddenly, as if remembering something, a hopeful light flashed in her eyes. Your birthday is in a few days. Let me give you your present early, okay? Whatever you want. I'll buy it for you. Hearing that, I finally lifted my gaze toward her, but my eyes were empty and detached. Then buy me a plane ticket. One to Hawking 3 days from now. Hawking? She was a bit confused. But quickly, she gave herself an answer. Are you going there for a vacation? I didn't explain, just nodded, and gave a simple Zunner didn't question further. She immediately pulled out her phone in front of me and booked a ticket to Hawking. After completing the purchase, she said, I have some things to handle these days. I might not have time to go with you. You head over first and enjoy yourself. When I'm free, I'll join you. Buying just a plane ticket feels like too small a birthday gift. I'll make it up to you with a huge surprise later. I shook my head and gave a light smile. It's not small at all. Not even a little bit. This plane ticket is my way home. Zunner, thank you for the gift. Thank you for personally sending me home. During the 2 days I stayed in the hospital, Zunner seemed to return to how she was at the beginning of our love, taking care of me with all the gentleness she could muster. But good things never last long. Her tenderness ended the moment I was discharged. She said she had work and let the driver take me home. And then she received a provocative text from Ding. Sorry, but Zunner and I are about to get married. Today, she's coming back to the old house to have dinner with me. So she probably doesn't have time to pick you up. I didn't mind the message. I simply returned home silently and started packing my luggage. On the day of my departure, I woke up very early, 7 hours before the flight. I carried my suitcases out to the door one by one and just happened to bump into Zunner, who was returning home. Seeing the front door piled with several suitcases, her expression instantly flustered. A surge of unease rushed through her heart. What's going on? Didn't you say you were just going to Hawking for fun? And you're the one who bought the plane ticket for me. Did you forget? I answered with a calm expression, as if I really was just preparing for a short trip. But my explanation clearly didn't convince her. If it's just a trip for a couple of days, why bring so much luggage? I tugged the corner of my mouth into a smile. I packed more outfits. I want to take more pictures. But she knew I had never been that fond of taking photos. Even when we traveled before, I never brought this much stuff. The unease spread through her whole body. She almost couldn't resist opening my suitcases right there to check if I was really telling the truth. Just as she moved toward them, her phone suddenly rang urgently. It was a call from Ding. She answered. I didn't know what he said, but Zunner fell silent for a long while. In the end, she left first. Before leaving, she turned back and reminded me, Z Yanzi, don't stay too long. Send me your return flight information. I'll come pick you up. I didn't reply because I knew I would never return. This meeting was our final farewell, 5 hours before takeoff. I changed the Via's door code from my own birthday to Ziding's birthday, and then I stuck a sticky note on the door. Since this will be Mr. Chen's home in the future, 3 hours before takeoff, I gathered every photo of Zizunner and me from the villa and threw them all into the fire pit. There she had once leapt into my arms, kissing me passionately under a shower of fireworks. Over and over, she had whispered that I was hers, confessing her love to me beneath sunsets and starlit skies, swearing to love me for a lifetime. She had once broken 3 ribs shielding me from a car crash. Her social media was filled with pictures of us. We had walked through spring together, treaded through summer, welcomed autumn, searched through winter. Now, as the memories burned away piece by piece, we too ended completely. 2 hours before takeoff, my phone rang. When I opened it, I saw a video sent by Ziding. The video seemed to be from a family gathering. Zizunner's friends, Ziding's friends, and elders from both families. Everyone surrounded the 2 stars of the night, Zizunner and Ziding. Voices rose, laughing and coaxing. Kiss, kiss. Come on, Zunya. You're getting married in a few days. What are you shy about? Amid the teasing and jeering, Ziding's face flushed red. He lowered his head toward her. The crowd's screams grew louder, egging him to kiss her. Zizunner stared at him, then finally closed her eyes and raised her hand, pulling his head toward her. The video replayed again and again. On the 7th loop, a new message from Ziding popped up. V Yan, did you see it? I'm the one recognized by the entire Liu family as their rightful son-in-law. With your poor background, how could the Liu family ever accept you? Someone like you ... would be better off marrying a beggar girl. So what if Zunner loves you? Her defenses are falling little by little. First meeting the parents, then moving in together. And just now ... she kissed me. Tell me, how long do you think it'll be before we end up in bed? I didn't reply. Instead, I quietly printed out every provocative message he had sent me over the past days. One by one, organized them neatly into a file, and placed it in the empty living room. Then, I dragged my suitcase out of the villa, called a taxi, and sped toward the airport. From this moment on, I will return to being the young master of the richest family, and you ... will have nothing more to do with me. At Huking Airport, dragging my suitcase behind me, I exited the terminal. Outside, a gleaming Bugatti was waiting. The car's value was unmistakably exorbitant. When the man by the car saw me approaching, he immediately opened the car door respectfully. Young master, please get in. As my luggage was placed into the trunk, I sat down inside smoothly and casually spoke to the man behind the wheel. I started chatting casually with the man who had gotten into the driver's seat. Uncle Lee, why are you the one picking me up today? Where's the family driver? Uncle Lee chuckled warmly. The fine wrinkles around his eyes made him look even kinder. The car slowly merged into the traffic. As it did, his gentle voice followed. You've been away for so many years, young master. When I heard you were finally coming home today ... I volunteered to come and pick you up. So Uncle Lee missed me, huh? I smiled, teasing lightly. There was a hint of playful affection in my tone. Saying that, I asked about the situation at home. How have Dad and Mom been all these years? Uncle Lee had been the house stirred for decades. He had watched me grow up. To me, he was more like a family elder than a servant, so our conversations never felt distant or formal. Uncle Lee didn't deny my teasing. Instead, he nodded and said warmly, "Of course I missed you. Master and Madam are doing very well. They're healthy. Aside from missing you ... there's nothing else to worry about." We chatted the whole way. By the time the car pulled up to our family's villa, I had a general idea of everything that had been happening at home. After getting out of the car, I walked straight toward the front door. As soon as I pushed the door open, There was already a group of house staff lined up neatly on both sides. Seeing me enter, they greeted me in unison, their voices clear and orderly. "Welcome home, young master." I couldn't help but raise a hand to my forehead in mild exasperation. Behind me, Uncle Lee pushed the suitcase forward. The servants immediately took it upstairs. Seeing my helpless expression, Uncle Lee chuckled. "Master and Madam insisted on making it a grand occasion. After hearing that you were coming home, they even had the staff rehearse this welcome ceremony overnight. They're probably all waiting for you in the living room now." I nodded, though the gesture felt a bit over the top. I didn't say anything to spoil their excitement. Instead, I walked directly toward the living room. Sure enough, the living room was packed with people. Dad, Mom, my uncles and aunts, they were all there. I went up and greeted everyone one by one, before finally sitting down beside my parents. Seeing the deep concern on their faces, something inside me, long suppressed, quietly unraveled. I leaned against my mother's shoulder, and an overwhelming surge of grievance and sadness rose in my chest. Since childhood, I had been pampered and protected by all my elders. I had never truly suffered, until I chose to hide my identity and went to Haikang to forge my own path. There, I met Zizunner, and spent 5 years in a relationship with her. I had given her my heart without reservation. At that time, I genuinely believed that she would be the one I would spend the rest of my life with. And I had vowed to myself with complete certainty. I had once firmly believed we would inevitably become each other's only one. But unfortunately, in the end, I almost became her kept lover. Utterly oblivious to the truth, all my sincerity, in the end, had been fed to the dogs. Mom noticed the gloom clouding my mood. She gently patted my shoulder. "The past is the past. We're never afraid of making mistakes. If it doesn't work out, we just start over. The one thing we have plenty of is second chances." Hearing Mom's comforting words, the tight knot in my chest finally began to ease. Seeing this, the others quickly changed the topic and rushed to bring out the gifts they had prepared long ago. At a glance, I realized that what Mom had said on the phone earlier wasn't exaggerated in the slightest. If anything, she had understated it. From house deeds to keys, a thick stack of documents, and an entire ring of keys. But what caught my eye most was the dazzling diamond watch placed at the center, made of solid gold, encrusted with massive diamonds. Every detail screamed luxury and extravagance, yet they all acted like it still wasn't enough, trying to pile the table higher and higher with gifts, as if only when the table was overflowing would they be satisfied. Just as I was about to gently refuse, and Chen suddenly slapped the table excitedly. Her eyes lit up. "The Yanzi just broke up, didn't he? I just happened to have a friend whose daughter recently returned from abroad. My friend's been fretting for ages that she won't find a boyfriend. How about ... you to meet, even if it's just as friends?" I froze and hurriedly waved my hands to decline. But Aunt Chen wouldn't take no for an answer. She directly shoved the contact info page into my hands. "I met the girl before she went abroad. She's really beautiful. Even if it's not fated, having her as a friend wouldn't be bad." Unable to refuse their enthusiasm, I finally agreed to my aunt's arrangement, though I hadn't expected. When I opened the contact information she pushed to me, I realized I already had this person as a contact. I clicked on the profile. There was no nickname note, just an avatar, a crescent moon against a pure black background, and a username consisting of only 2 simple letters. I paused for a long moment, tried to recall when exactly I had added them as a friend, but no matter how hard I thought, I couldn't remember when we had ever connected. I didn't ask further, just calmly locked my phone screen, since all answers would reveal themselves when we met. And just as I was preparing for this blind date meeting with someone new, on the other side, Zizunner had finally returned home. Night was beginning to fall. The villa lights were off. She didn't notice the sticky note on the door. As usual, she entered the door code. After inputting it, she tried to push the door open, but the door wouldn't budge. Confused, she looked up and finally saw the note stuck to the door. Since this will be Mr. Chen's home in the future, it's better to set the password to his birthday. Mr. Chen's home. Ziding! Her heart skipped a beat violently. Could it be that he had found out something? But she and Ziding had only met once. There was no way anyone else would have told him. How could he have possibly known about her marriage arrangement with Ziding? Hesitantly, Zizunner entered Ziding's birthday. The villa door clicked open. She turned on the lights. The villa was eerily empty. Out of habit, she called out, Ziyanzi? Her voice echoed throughout the villa. But no one answered. Only then did she suddenly remember. I had gone to Hukang a few days ago. I rarely stayed away from her this long. Most of the time, I would be home, waiting for her to come back. Ever since we started living together. Except for this time. Every time she returned, I would always be there. Thinking of this, an inexplicable unease rose sharply in her chest. A hollow, gnawing emptiness
Could I really be
serious this time? But turning the thought over in her mind, she quickly dismissed it. No way! I loved her too much. This was probably just because in the past few days, she hadn't spent much time with me. That's why I had gotten emotional and guessed at her relationship with Ziding. But eventually, I would always come back to her side. And by then, she could coax me like always. Thinking this, she pressed her temples gently and walked toward the living room. She figured she should call me soon and have a good talk with me. But just as she reached the living room, before she could even pull out her phone, her gaze was drawn to a thick stack of papers sitting on the coffee table. Without pausing, Zizunner quickened her steps and soon sat down on the sofa, picking up the unfamiliar stack of documents. A flicker of hope stirred faintly in her heart. Could it be something from me? A surprise gift? See, she told herself. I was just angry for a while. How could I really leave her? A faint smile tugged at the corners of her mouth. But very soon,